Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny's SportsWrap. Well, there's not much sports to watch right now, is there? In fact, there's almost none. I live in a world where on Saturdays and Sundays I tend to get up a little bit early and get the day going, and generally that meant on Saturday that I'd watch some Premier League soccer. Of course, there was none of that, as the Premier League was one of the last leagues to shut down their operations. They did so on Friday, so I was watching Gary Neville's Soccer Box. Very entertaining show, actually, where he interviews prominent soccer players and shows highlights from their career. Then on Sunday, oftentimes Saturday and Sunday, I'll flip over and watch the Golf Channel's morning golf show. No golf show there. What are they showing? The wonderful world of golf, vintage golf matches from the late 50s and early 60s. In the Kansas City Star over the weekend, they noted that on Monday they usually put in a thing that gives you hints as far as the days and upcoming days, television and radio schedules as far as sports is concerned. On Sunday, they had a few obscure events, and for Monday, it said no live or same-day tape events at all. And today, in the online Kansas City Star, which is the way I consume it now, they don't even have the section anymore. So that's where we lie, and certainly I think people noticed in this first weekend without sports that there was a little bit of emptiness, but we all understand it. What we don't understand is how long it's going to go on, and it manifests itself in other ways. We went out socially, visited some friends the other day. Usually you're greeting with a hug or a little peck on the cheek or whatever. No, we bumped elbows. So that's the world we live in right now. It's changing each and every day. There's really not a lot of direct sports to talk about. There's really a lot of direct life to talk about, and we'll do so today on Monday Musings. And one thing that's overriding all of this is just how lucky the National Football League is. That's where we'll start coming up next on Monday Musings, right here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is Where Integrity Matters. Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. My friends at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture are among the most accomplished and trusted clinics in the nation. Only one clinic has been rated in the top 5 in all 3 categories of chiropractic care, acupuncture, and rehabilitation, and that clinic is ASFCA. They have locations in Olathe, Overland Park, Prairie Village, Belton, and Lee Summit. Doctors Brad and Christina Woodle and their accomplished team of doctors and therapists will treat you like family, for the simplest of injuries to the most complicated conditions to avoid surgery. Whether you are seeking treatment for an injury or just looking to stay healthy and fit, this is the place for you. And it's been the place for me for almost 2 years now. I've been a strenuous daily exerciser for years, and as time goes on, that takes its toll. But regular appointments at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and acupuncture have helped keep me ticking on, and even as the years pile up, their regular care has allowed me to keep to my regimen and feel great. If you want to feel the same, give them a call or visit them at asfca.com/Danny. They accept all insurances and are open Monday through Saturday, and make sure to mention that Danny Clinkscale recommended Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and acupuncture.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back, and an overriding thing, as I mentioned in the open, is if we're going to talk about specific sports and sports news, is that really the only sports news out there of any real importance or gravity is in the National Football League. The NFL is already king, and now they just get to build on that kingdom because of this horrible situation that's infecting and affecting people all around the world and is starting to grow in its importance in the United States. Just the window of it, just after the season concludes, is when this all kicked up. The NFL season won't begin in actuality until September. We all certainly hope that this situation will maybe not be completely behind us, but certainly well in hand by September, hopefully way, way before that. But still, the NFL has all this time. The league season is going to go ahead. The league schedule is going to go ahead as scheduled, and that was decided over the weekend as well. But then they had real news with the collective bargaining agreement approved by the National Football League players. And it wasn't approved by a bunch, about 100 votes or so, with over 2,000 players voting, 51.5%, and many, many prominent players voting against it. And in large part, the issue that they were most against was adding the 17th game, which now will be a reality. It likely will start in 2021, so we'll still have one more 16-game season. They will add one playoff team in each conference. There will be only one bye, and that certainly changes the landscape of football. That provides a situation where there's more content to offer to the television partners, and that agreement is still to be negotiated in the next couple of years. So that will provide more and more money. And the players in the National Football League are just in a bad position in general. Their deal, even this one with a little bit of improvements, is far and away the worst of any of the leagues. The amount of guaranteed contracts, the work conditions, everything else is far and away the worst. Is it still good for people? Of course. They're playing professional sports. That is a hugely lucrative enterprise in the world today, and the sums of money that we just toss about as, well, so-and-so, he's only making $1.2 million. Well, we've just gotten used to that. And Ryan Tannehill signs a 4-year contract over the weekend, or agrees to a 4-year contract. And Ryan Tannehill, who's hardly among the elite quarterbacks, but quarterback in the National Football League, if you get to start a few games of any kind, is one of the greatest jobs in all of the world. And that's not an exaggeration, because Ryan Tannehill isn't even great in his league. Now, is he great worldwide? He's one of the top 25 quarterbacks in all of the world. So I guess if you're the top 25 of some profession in all of the world, you should be well compensated, and certainly he will be. $62 million guaranteed, $29 million a year, the potential to make well over $100 million in the course of a 4-year contract. That's just the world we live in sports. So nobody's going to shed any tears even for the lowest line player, but 5 or 6 years of getting your head beat in can still provide maybe a lifetime of economic return if you handle yourself correctly. But the players didn't really seem to get that much for adding a 17th game that creates more wear and tear on their body. Basically, what they received was a little bit more money, a little bit more minimum salary, and the fact that it's very unlikely that any player will ever be suspended again for smoking marijuana. So those are the things that the players seemingly got. There were other notable changes, I guess, in the collective bargaining agreement, which extends all the way through 2030, which is great news. We won't even have to talk about these type of issues for another 9 years. The preseason will be shortened from 4 games to 3, with the 4th week serving as a bye, so we'll have a little bit of a build-up to the start of the season after preseason football, and we'll see if we even have preseason football, and hopefully we will have preseason football, because it'll be August, and hopefully by August we won't be talking about a lot of these things. Active game day rosters will expand from 46 to 48. Overall rosters grow from 53 to 55, so the players get a couple of extra jobs, and Practice squads will expand from 10 players to 12. So the amount of players who are making some kind of a living of some sort will increase, and that's certainly a bit of good news. Maximum length of padded full-speed practices will be reduced from 3 hours to 2.5. They probably weren't practicing that long anyway, so that I don't know if that gets the players much of anything. A new neutral discipline officer will rule on punishments for violations of the player conduct policy. That is a change because Roger Goodell used to do that and hear the appeals, but now he'll just hear the appeals, and he will have the final say. So that doesn't really change that much because if there's a disciplinary issue and the team doesn't like it or somebody doesn't like it, they can appeal, and on appeal, the commissioner still has the ultimate authority. And as I mentioned, the drug policy will reduce the testing window for THC from 4 months to 2 weeks at the start of training camp. So even if you don't want to take much of a chance, you only have to stay clean, as it were, for 2 weeks. Players cannot be suspended strictly for testing positive for THC. I don't know what else they have to do to get, maybe it's part of an overall bad conduct policy, I don't know. And the limit of nanograms of carboxy THC per milliliter increases from 35 to 150. I'm not familiar with that science, but it seems to me that if you increase something by over 4 times, that you probably still can actually ingest some marijuana and still not test positive. It seems like a tremendously large amount of increase in that number, but that's one of the things the players gain. But what we gained as fans is just the certainty that we won't have to talk about any of these issues until the year 2030. As far as other sports are concerned, they really have to take a back seat to the National Football League. They always do, but the NFL is the only place where real news will be made. Free agency is going to crank up. The draft is going to be held. All those things are going to be in place for people to pay attention to, and all the other leagues have to do is try and somehow create some kind of relevance and tease that they may indeed play. Most people within the circles of the National Hockey League are talking about the fact that they think their season is over. The NBA reports are out today that most people feel like it's a best-case scenario that they would resume play in June, which probably would mean that they would just have playoffs and just have a little bit of practice time and then have the playoffs in June. And you can, I don't know whether they would truncate them or anything else. I think more and more as each day passes, we seem to accelerate the process to the fact that all of these seasons may be wiped out for the winter sports, and then we'll see as far as when baseball will start, when football will start, and if those two actually are compromised in much of a significant way, then we will really have had a very much worsening situation, and that wouldn't be great at all. This situation is so fluid, and it does increase with every day, and I have to note that if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're listening to it at least a couple of hours after I spoke these words, and things could have changed radically by then. But it is a situation that is growing, but growing in what regard? And it is easy to see why some people would have skepticism about all the things that are being done to curb this disease. And as each day passes, I think more people see the sensible nature of this and the fact that being overly cautious, if we are indeed being overly cautious, is the right approach. But when you have a situation where, as I speak right now, for instance, there have been 8 cases of coronavirus in the state of Kansas, and I believe the total now is 6 in the state of Missouri. That seems like a very, very low number to a lot of people, and yes, indeed it is. But when we look at other places that are accelerated, that are ahead of us, and then maybe people will say, well, those are much more populated areas, that won't affect us the same. You see the kind of growth in cases that seems to be something that we will see here. We hope we don't see it here. But for people to be a little bit skeptical about the fact that they have to change their lives so drastically, I understand it. But I think in the end, they will understand it as well. I guess on a more fun note, as it were, we'll go through our local teams coming up next and see what direct effects they have had on this coronavirus has had on them in each particular case, and talk about the local situations coming up next on this very unusual edition, and it probably will be unusual for a few weeks, of Monday Musings, Danny's Sports Wrap, which probably should have a new interim title, but I'm not going to change it right here on the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast, right here at DannyClinkscale.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner, and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dan. They just contacted me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Hey guys, it's Brian Haney, voice of the Jayhawks, and Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery. Matt, I've got a bunch of buddies coming over to watch the big game, and I need some ideas on what to cook.
Hey, let me handle it, Brian.
You're going to come over and cook for us?
For you? Maybe. But you should just let 23rd Street Brewery cater it. We could bring a big pan of Bill Self mac and cheese, wings, veggies, naked nachos, and anything else you might want.
Great. Well, you want to stick around and watch the game?
No, I've got to get back to the brewery and watch it on the big screen.
The place to get great catering and watch all the games, the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back to Monday Musings, and we're watching things that relate to sports because we're not watching any sports, that's for sure. Actually, over the weekend, I checked out during the window where the Players' Championship would have been showing on NBC, and what were they showing? Of course, they were showing another golf tournament from the past. They were showing the final round of last year's Players' Championship. I know who won. It was Rory McIlroy. But I saw the leaderboard, and it was chock full of good players, and I don't vividly remember each and every shot. So actually, I DVR'd it. So over the next few days, maybe I'll actually have some golf to watch as I doze off in the evening or whatever. But that's what we are, in fact, are reduced to. I think I have a couple soccer games that I still have in the queue. I know the result. I don't often enjoy at all watching sporting events that I know the result of, but when you don't have anything at all, I guess your tastes change a little bit. And I know that there's probably people out there who are watching old football games or old college basketball games, and I guess we can start with college basketball. And the only joy that comes over the weekend is if you're a Kansas fan and you looked around as far as the eye could see, and you saw these virtual tournaments that were being cast about, and in a couple of them, Kansas was crowned champion. I'm looking at the USA Today one right now. They beat Dayton 66-65 to win the national championship, and I guess that is kind of a giggle for Kansas fans, but also it kind of reinforces the fact that they really did have a chance to make a run for a national championship, and all that will be seen for the 2019 and 2020 season is the word vacant in every single list. And I'm sure the jokes will be out there now that Kansas will claim a title just like a Helms title because USA Today crowned them champions. I don't think they're going to hang a banner that says USA Today National Champions 2020. I'm relatively sure of that, but it does provide some of what enterprises like USA Today and their sports section have to do to try and create copy, interest, content. The Kansas City Star didn't do that, but they did print a bracket, and Blair Kirchhoff came up with a bracket and put it in there. The NCAA themselves decided not to do a bracket, and they had sound reasoning behind it. I thought it was fair, because if the idea was to give some credit to the schools that would have made the tournament, they didn't have enough information. A lot of the conference tournaments obviously had not concluded, and in many of those conferences that had not concluded, they are one-bid conferences. And so two teams that had already made the finals, for instance, in a small conference, each had a chance to win the championship. How could you pick between those two teams? Well, you could pick by the regular season, I guess, but it really wouldn't be fair. The way that the NCAA tournament is constructed is for that league to give its champion to the NCAA based on their conference tournament, and say a school like Vermont or whatever had a chance to be in the tournament, and if they weren't listed as the team to be in the tournament, then that would be kind of a snub. So I think they were right to officially not put out an official bracket, but everybody else is allowed to do so, and it was a little bit of fun as far as Kansas is concerned for that. But just as I talked about in the opening, as far as the NFL is concerned, the best news right now is reserved for the Chiefs. First of all, they're not likely to, at least at this point in time, we hope, miss games and actual time. And there's a lot of news for their fans to pay attention to, and it's news that is exactly the same as it would have been if we had not had the coronavirus situation. We still would have been talking about Chris Jones' contract situation. We still would have been talking about Patrick Mahomes. So all that has not changed, and the interest in it is only heightened because nobody can pay attention to March Madness right now because there isn't any. Kansas City Royals have shut down spring training, and Major League Baseball has as a whole. Their season will not begin for at least 2 weeks after it was originally scheduled, and the odds of it starting then seem extremely remote right now. So the only real focus for local fans is the Chiefs, and that will only increase the hysteria surrounding the world champs, and that's just good for business. It's good for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the details of the collective bargaining agreement also create a better situation for the Chiefs as well. First of all, there's labor peace till the year 2030. That means that there'll be no chance for a lockout or a strike or anything else during the prime years of Patrick Mahomes' career. It also means that with the salary cap going up significantly, and the potential for it going up even more significantly when a new television deal is signed, the odds of being able to make a better offer, for instance, to Chris Jones go up, and Chiefs have decisions to make in that regard, whether giving that big fat contract is indeed a good idea, but they certainly have more resources to do so. So all in all, just good news across the board for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's been the case for quite a while now, and it seems it will extend into the future, and people will still be able to do their mock drafts and plan on the draft. Now, nobody's going to be able to zip out to Vegas, I don't think, to view the draft as they might have been inclined to do because it's such a destination. In fact, MGM Resorts has shut down, as of today, their casinos out there, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that type of thing, although here in Kansas City, on both sides of the border, there have been some restrictions on maximum gatherings, but it has not been affecting businesses, schools, and places where normally you would have those kind of gatherings. It's more in tune for parades and St. Patrick's Day activities and things of that nature, and that's changing and going from one situation to the next hour by hour by hour. For the other teams in our area, it's just, quickly getting back to college basketball, two things happened that could never happen in any other basketball season. Kansas State won their last two games. Missouri won their last game. You never finish a college basketball season unless you're the NIT or the NCAA champion or a Division II champion or whatever by winning your last game. You always lose your last game. So those teams won their last game, and that's a little bit of good news there. But for the Royals, disaster. Everything in this regard is a disaster to our personal lives and everything. But the Royals are coming off 2 horrendous seasons, and now they will continue to be even less relevant than they would have been until they start playing baseball games. And with each passing day, each passing day of increased attention on the Chiefs, the Royals become an afterthought. And the Royals know that, and they put out a letter to their fans yesterday. Pay attention to us. We'll be keeping in touch with you. We care about you. And that's about all they can do. And that's certainly extremely bad news for the Royals. And all they can do now is hope that when and if, I guess you have to say, the season starts, that the Royals get off to a fast start and create some excitement, because right now they are in a situation where with each passing day, as I mentioned, people think less and less and less about the Royals, and there won't be a real opening day. There'll be a day where they start playing baseball, but it seems very possible that the opening games or the opening slate of, first 3 weeks, first month may be played without fans, because they'll probably want to get the season going to have a representative amount of games. All those things are very much up in the air. But as far as exposure and attention and excitement, it's all muted for the Kansas City Royals. And for Sporting Kansas City, also, from a pure game situation, what an unmitigated disaster. Sporting couldn't have looked greater. The excitement was back. They won their first 2 games. They scored goals. They have new stars. They were about to play a game last Saturday night, a 3rd game of the season, against one of the best teams in the league, and what would have been a marquee matchup in Major League Soccer, and 70,000 people would have been there in Atlanta to view the game. And if Sporting Kansas City went out and on the road and won that one, what an unbelievable boon that would be. That game, in my mind, probably won't be played, period. But Sporting Kansas City couldn't have had a greater start to their season, and greater attention and more enthusiasm and all the things that had faded just a little bit because of that star-crossed season last year. And now with the coronavirus, we have no idea when the MLS season will resume. They probably will play an accelerated schedule, maybe more midweek games. But the only thing that can happen is for Sporting Kansas City to lose some momentum. I mean, they couldn't have had more momentum, and playing more games right away for them in a regular schedule would have been a great thing. And Peter Vermees referenced more than a couple of times right before the season started how at the outset of the season, Sporting had a very normal schedule where they were going to be playing a game on each weekend for a while. That certainly won't be the case when they return. So this affects them from that standpoint as far as exposure and excitement, just as the Kansas City Royals. And in the end, once again, the NFL rules. The NFL has good fortune. And right now, the NFL is about the only tangible thing we can pay attention to in the world of sports. Hopefully that will start to change. It isn't going to change anytime soon, and probably next Monday we will only have an accelerated version of all the things that I've talked about today on this edition of Monday Musings, which will be a very interesting and different podcast over the next few Mondays. But at DannyKlingscale.com, one of the reasons of the design for it was the fact that it wasn't all just about sports, and we have arts and lifestyle on Wednesday. We have great personal profiles on Friday, and blogs and essays and things to keep you entertained, and you have a lot more time to do so now, so it's a good time to pay some attention to DannyKlingscale.com. But I know that most people are paying more and more attention to things far more important, and we'll be touching on all those as well as time rolls on, and we hope to be back to normalcy in the coming months. I don't think we can say weeks anymore. I think we have to hope that 3 months from now, 4 months from now, we'll be returning to some kind of normalcy in our lives, and we can only hope and pray for that. So see you on Wednesday for Arts and Lifestyles. See you next Monday for another Monday Musings, and we'll see what I'm musing about by that point in time, because things are changing so rapidly.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.